Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 787 of the Juicebox Podcast. On today's show, we'll be speaking with Katy, who has a child with type 1 diabetes, and there are some big feelings in this episode. Hence the title, Big Feelings. I almost went with Katy's Big Feelings. And then I thought, no, Big Feelings. It's better, shorter. I like it. While you're listening, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Do you live in the United States of America and have type 1 diabetes? Or are the caregiver of someone with type 1? If you do, and you are, then you should fill out the survey at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. This will take you fewer than 10 minutes, help people with type 1 diabetes, might help you, it's definitely going to help me, t1dexchange.org/juicebox. The survey takes 10 minutes to fill out. It's easy. The questions are simple. They're about diabetes. You can do it. Completely HIPAA compliant, absolutely anonymous, t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Contour Next One blood glucose meter. You can find out all about the Contour Next One and just buy it online if you want to at contournext.com/juicebox. Great website. All the websites for the what do they call sponsors are actually terrific. Tons of information. But this one's next level. There's so much there. contournext.com/juicebox. Today's show is also sponsored by InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. If you want some of the functionality that you've heard about with an insulin pump, but you don't want an insulin pump, you can get it with the InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. InPentoday.com to get started. You may pay as little as $35 for an InPen. I'll tell you more about that during the ad.
This is my first time doing a podcast, so
mine too.
With me.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you've done like 500.
You know that the first time I made a podcast, I was recording with a guy who was an American Idol contestant who had type 1 diabetes. And I thought, in my mind, I launched my podcast. Like, American Idol was big back then.
Yeah.
So I started this podcast. I put it up online, this little placeholder episode. It's called microphone test or something like that. And then I was getting ready to make my first episode when this kid popped up on American Idol, and I took a swing at getting him on and actually did it. So the very first time I ever recorded the podcast, that's who I had to interview. So I was nervous.
Yeah, I bet.
I am not nervous now. Are you?
I was a little coming into it, but I knew it was coming. So I am somewhat relaxed actually, which is kind of strange, but I think I just kind of went into my, I take yoga. So I think I went into my kind of my yoga breathing and just kind of went into my happy place. My name is Katy. I was born and raised in California. I live in Northern California, the Bay Area. Let's see.
Your name is spelled wrong, Katy.
Katy.
For 3 days, I look at it on my calendar and I'm like, let her say her name first in case there's some hippie pronunciation here. But you just
it's Katy. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. I'm waiting to find out. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. You're the parent of.
So it's actually really funny because my whole life I've always gotten Kathy, Caitlin, Catherine. And I'm always like, it's Katy. It's just Katy. But yeah, I got that a lot in elementary school. Okay, so I am 36 years old and I have 2 children and a husband. I live in Yountville, California. My kids are Griffin, he's 10 years old, and Jackson, 6 years old.
Are their names all spelled correctly?
So Griffin is Griffin and Jackson Jaxon.
Katy, are you immune to my sarcasm, or are you just very earnest?
Well, I'm pretty sarcastic myself.
Okay,
So.
well, you're hitting me back with it. I see. All right, that's fair. Well, then I'll be careful.
I was raised in a pretty sarcastic family.
I like that a lot. Which one of your children has type 1?
So my older son, Griffin, he has type 1 diabetes, and he also has celiac. And he's got a lot going on. Also some anxiety that we've been dealing with as well. Mm-hmm. But I'll try to stay just on the type 1 for the most part. So he was diagnosed when he was 3.5 years old, July 11th, 2015. I was 8 months pregnant with his brother, Jackson.
Okay.
And we had actually just had the baby shower for Jackson. I think it was 2 weeks prior to the diagnosis. And what happened was Griffin was, he was very healthy for the first 3.5 years. Hardly ever even got a cold. You know, I remember being around other families and their kids would sniffle and have runny nose and all of that. And I felt kind of, you know, sort of like you
superior.
Feel sort of proud.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You're just like, well, I must be doing something right. You know, I breastfed. I did not have an epidural with him.
I don't give birth to weak children who pick up colds.
I just, you know, it's interesting because your perspective, it changes so much. Sure. But yeah, I felt really good about it. But you know, what's interesting as well is that I remember like probably a few months before his diagnosis, having this kind of just like odd feeling, that I remember thinking, God, he's so healthy. He's so, you know, like it's like everything's just so good with him. So he just does so well. He's so strong. And I remember thinking in my mind, like, God, what if something happened? Like he got some childhood illness or something. And I thought, oh, that's just my mind, you know, just put that somewhere else.
Do things like that happen to you with any frequency, or was that a one-time event?
It was kind of a one-time, thought it and sort of put that aside. And, yeah. But I also do have, I have anxiety myself. I also have PTSD. So I have some things going on within myself. So I do tend to worry mm-hmm. a lot. So that wasn't like totally out of the norm for me, but it was kind of odd. Like it's always stuck with me that I had that sort of feeling. But then, so moving forward, you know, everything was going relatively well with my second pregnancy. And, you know, I'd gotten over the morning sickness and all of that. I went through that with both of my babies. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we're in the second trimester and getting into the third and feeling good. And he got croup kind of out of nowhere. And so, you know, that's in the respiratory. So he was really having a hard time breathing. I woke up in the middle of the night to him kind of gasping for a breath. And I ran into his room and I was able to like kind of soothe him and calm him down while I talked to the nurse. Brought him to the doctors. They gave him medicine for that. I think it was an oral steroid mm-hmm. Of some sort. But anyway, so we took care of that and he seemed to be getting better. But I would say within about a month, I noticed weight loss. He could not stop drinking water. I remember at one point catching him in the bathroom, drinking out of the sink. And then excessive wetting the bed. Like, I mean, to the point where I would have to change the bed twice in one night. So it was, and he kind of had that going on. He was 3 years old. So it wasn't, like really out of the ordinary to wet the bed, but this seemed to be, this was like it was more of a red flag type.
Right. What did you do at that point?
So I remember just kind of like the dots started to, I was starting to sort of like connect these dots, but I did not know anything about type 1 diabetes. Now I know that it is in the realm of autoimmune diseases, which autoimmune diseases do run in my family.
Really?
But I had no idea I knew there was different kinds of diabetes. My sister had a friend that was diagnosed at 17 that got very sick. So I knew that he had the more serious, in my mind, it was the more serious one. Even though they're both serious. Yeah. And so I knew there was like one that was a bit more treatable and one that was, just like, that was the more like, whoa, steel magnolias,
Right.
I
understand.
So I was like, So I wasn't even going there because I really knew nothing about diabetes. No one in my family has diabetes. And in my husband's family, his father had type 2, but it wasn't really talked about much. So nobody ever talked about what diabetes. The symptoms were.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my husband, and I remember talking to family members and people, around Griffin, and just saying like, this is odd. I talked to my mom on the phone, and, I'm a little concerned, and, this just seems really weird. Like, why is he, and also he was he was starting to get very like irritable those last days before the diagnosis. He was like, just not himself. And I was like losing my patience. I remember at one point, I had to stop and buy him new shorts at a store because we had gone to the park and he'd wet through everything in the, there was standing urine in his car seat. Yeah. Like when I took the car seat out. So it was pretty overwhelming. And so I talked to my dad the night before he was diagnosed. And I remember saying like, these things are all really odd. And my dad, is trying to make me feel better. And everybody's trying to make me feel better. And they all know I worry a lot. So everybody's like, it's okay. He's just, he's, you're about to have a new baby and, there's all these things happening, like, whatever. Yeah. So
a bunch of stuff that doesn't really say why somebody would pee themselves over and over again and drink out of the faucet.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it makes you feel better in the moment.
Yeah. But my gut inside, like I knew something was off. So we go to the fair on Saturday, and we're going to try to make Griffin feel better. And because we had gone to the fair the year before and he had so much fun. So we're like, this is going to be so fun. We bring him to the fair. We figure that'll cheer him up. We get him ice cream and, which, oh my God, hindsight, not a good call. But we were trying to make him feel better. And he just was extremely lethargic, like couldn't even get out of the stroller. His eyes were all red underneath. He just was not looking good. I mean, now I look back on the photos and stuff and it's, it's hard to look at them because I can see how sick he was. Yeah. But at the time, I've got a big baby bump and I've got a million things on my mind. But that is kind of running in the back of my mind is like, what are these? And I'm trying to put the thing, put the whatever together. And so I finally just, I said, Mom, I think maybe, because my mother was there with us. I said, I think maybe this is do you think maybe it's a kidney infection or a bladder infection? I don't know, what it could be.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, I don't know. And I said, I'm going to call the advice nurse right now. Like, cause so I call the advice nurse standing in the middle of the fair. And I just, I start saying these symptoms And the advice nurse, their first response, was, okay, well, these symptoms you have, let's get him in here tomorrow. So this is on a Saturday. He said, let's get him in here on Sunday at 11 o'clock. Let's get him in here. Let's run some tests. And that's okay. Does that sound good? And I just, right before we hung up, I go, I want to talk to an ER doctor. I want to, please connect me to the emergency room department. I want to talk to someone else. So, we got an ER doctor on the line, and I was able to explain the symptoms. And that person that saved my son's life. He immediately said, ma'am, we need you to get in the car, take all, you need to get in a car right now, have someone else drive if you need to get your son to an emergency room immediately. If he starts vomiting in the car, do this, and this, basically just like, you got to go now.
Right.
And all he said was, it sounds like it could be his blood sugar. And I don't know anything about that. So my first instinct was the movie Steel Magnolias, where she's shoving the straw in Julia Roberts' mouth. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, does he need sugar? Is this low blood sugar? That's how little I knew.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like giving him more candy on the way to the hospital, and he's literally like going in and out of it. And I'm like, have the gummy bear, because that's why I'm doing this podcast. Wow. Because I knew so little, and because so many people know so little. Yeah. And if I can at least like reach one person, then I'm happy with that.
Katy, I wish I was there at that moment, because what I would have said to you was, do you remember when Julia Roberts did that little movie called Pretty Woman? I would have said to you, do you really think that's how most hookers' lives go? And I would have, and you would have said, no, probably not. And I would have said, yeah, right, because movies are fake. And
right.
and maybe we should listen to them.
I know.
That's oh my God. So I have a ton of questions. Can we wait a second? Let's put a pin in you in the car. I'm going to draw a picture of a car and a candy wrapper, so I know where we're at. And I want to go back and ask a number of different questions. So first, other autoimmune issues in your extended family? I'm ready. I feel it. Ready? Here we go. Why are you using a blood glucose meter that sucks? Why do you have a junky, janky, not accurate meter in your pocket or your bag? Why is your kid walking around with a meter that you can't trust? Have you looked into what accurate is? Where you get it from? What brands are best? I know you haven't. It's okay. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you. I'm here to move you in the direction of the Contour Next One blood glucose meter. You want easy to use, easy to carry, able to see at night, a screen that is visible, and accuracy. As a bonus with the Contour Next One blood glucose meter, you get second chance test strips, meaning if you should touch the blood and fumble around or whatever happens, and you get some blood on the strip, but not enough, you go back and get the rest without impacting the accuracy of the test strip or wasting one. Second chance test strips. So what are you getting with a Contour Next One blood glucose meter? You're getting something that is so carryable, small enough to put it anywhere, but large enough that you can handle it well. A screen that you can view easily, and a nice bright light for nighttime viewing. And if you want to connect it to the app, you can. And if you don't want to use their app, you don't have to. But the app's helpful. Keeps a bunch of your information in there. You'll figure it out. contournext.com/juicebox. Head over there now. You can actually buy the supplies and the meter online for much less than you expect. There are links right on the website. And those links say, it's going to be hard for you to remember what it says. Buy now. It says buy now, in case you want to buy it right now. You click on that. You're looking at links for Amazon, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Kroger, Meijer, Target, and Rite Aid. Just like that. Bing, bang, boom. You could probably have it done before I get done talking. ContourNext.com/juicebox. Get yourself an accurate meter. Please. You're buying one anyway. You might as well get a good one. All right. You want a dosing calculator. You want to know how much active insulin is remaining. You want to be able to see your glucose history, reports, activity logs, dosing history, and a history of your meals. But you're using an insulin pen. So you think, well, I can't get that because I don't have a pump. But you can. You could get that with the InPen from Medtronic Diabetes, because InPen is connected to an app that shows you all of those things, including your current glucose. Now you're interested. You're like, how could that happen? Well, you should go over to InPenToday.com to find out more. Once you're ready to try, just fill out the sheet there. It's like name, address, phone number. Tell them, a couple things. Hit submit. Boom. You're on your way. Then you get yourself an insulin pen that does more. InPen also has 24-hour technical support, hands-on product training, and an online educational resource. Did you know you may pay as little as $35 for an InPen? Well, that's true, because at Medtronic Diabetes, they don't want cost to be a roadblock to you getting the therapy that you need. So with the InPen Access Program, you may pay as little as $35. Offer is available to people with commercial insurance. Terms and conditions apply, of course, but it's very, very possible that this will be the case. So if you're looking for a lot of the convenience that comes with an insulin pump without having to have an insulin pump, you're looking for the InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. InPenToday.com to get started. InPen requires a prescription and settings from your healthcare provider. You must use proper settings and follow the instructions as directed, or you could experience high or low glucose levels. For more safety information, visit InPenToday.com. I might just bleep that out. I can't believe I say this so much. How could I get that wrong? All right. Sorry. Back to Katy. If you're looking for ways to support the podcast, clicking on my links for the advertisers is huge. So there are links in the show notes of your podcast player, links at juiceboxpodcast.com, where you can just type into your browser the way I say it, like InPenToday.com. That's me, right? ContourNext.com/juicebox. That allows them to know you came through me. If you end up buying some test strips or a meter or anything else, they know their advertising is reaching you through the podcast, and that keeps the podcast plentiful and free for you. So I appreciate it when you do that.
Yes. My mom has rheumatoid arthritis, diagnosed, I think late 30s, early 40s, but it didn't really kick in till like her 50s.
Okay.
And then I have a sibling that has an autoimmune condition as well. I would say it, but I don't know if she's comfortable with me saying it.
That's fine.
So it's just kind of like, sure. Yeah. She's got an autoimmune condition. My mom has an autoimmune condition. And then my grandmother has hypothyroidism. And so does my aunt. And I believe my great grandmother had RA as well. I don't know anything on my dad's side. My dad was adopted, so I don't know his blood, like the blood history with him. My dad doesn't have anything autoimmune, so I'm thinking it comes more from my mom's side, and more from my side. Whatever. I'm like, proud over.
RA twice.
Your
your sisters that we're not going to say, and 2 hypothyroidisms. Do you have anything besides the anxiety?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Not yet.
Not that I know of, but just really, a lot of anxiety. I was in a car accident when I was in high school, and I think that sparked up PTSD and anxiety. And then I went on that whole journey.
Can I ask you, prior to the car accident, did you ever feel that way?
No, not really.
How old were you then?
I was 15.
Okay. And so I don't know anything about PTSD, but is that a diagnosable thing? Is that something that a therapist has said to you, you have PTSD?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yeah.
and how does that continue to impact your life?
It impacts it all the time. Triggers. There's certain things that just can trigger you, a smell, a song, I mean, it could be anything really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like learning to identify what the triggers are, and how to better react to situations, which, it's hard because over the years, other things have happened, like Griffin's diagnosis that definitely,
piled on.
I think there was some serious PTSD after that. Oh, absolutely. Because, being pregnant and the hormones and everything, and then to already have an underlying anxiety, and then have, this, I mean, when it happened and we got to the ER and, he goes, "We have a big problem. Your son's diabetic." I just remember the whole world just crashed down, in that moment, and everything just started going in slow motion. And then there was doctors everywhere and people everywhere. And, he had a really high blood sugar. It was 960.
Do you manage your anxiety with any medication or other things?
So I do take medication.
Right.
I've kind of been on and off of it throughout my 20s, and 30s. I didn't take any medication when I was, pregnant with my children. I, wanted to be all natural during that time. And I've tried to, I've tried not taking medication. I've kind of done both, but, it's, it's really about finding like the right medication that is, that you should or shouldn't be taking, and working with the right doctor and psychiatrist and therapist. And that was, that's a journey that took a long time to kind of figure out. And but I work with some really amazing people, and I think that helps a lot.
Excellent. Now, you said you thought that Griffin had anxiety as well. When did that pop up for him?
I have noticed it really more so in the past, I would say 4 years. So 4 years ago, my husband's father passed away of a heart attack. It was sudden. It was fast. And Griffin was there when my husband got the news, and that was quite traumatic. Seeing your dad get that news on the phone. And then the next year, our beautiful dog that we've had for 10 and a half years, Marley, Australian Shepherd, she had an issue with her ACL. We bring her to the vet. The vet says she's got cancer everywhere. And it was within 2 weeks, she passed away.
Yeah.
And she was like the dog that we took everywhere. So that was like the heart and soul of our family, and my father-in-law. So those two sudden losses were also really big. And then his school closed, and then the pandemic happened, and the California wildfires, just all this stuff. Yeah. And I think all of that has definitely contributed a lot to kicking into anxiety. So I see it because I have it. I think I'm able to see more in him.
In present day, how does that impact him day to day? When you say you see it, what do you see?
Well, we're working with a neurologist right now at UCSF, because he's kind of developed a bit of a tic. So he has little tics with his hands. And he's a brilliant artist. He's been making art since he could literally pick up a crayon, or start making little sculptures and things. And he just loves to do art. And it's frustrating for him because when he does art, he tics a lot. And I think it's part of it's like that he's hyper focused. So he gets frustrated. He's like, "Mom, why do I have to tic so much when I'm doing this?" But Yeah, the way the neurologist is approaching it is to try to start with the anxiety, and go from there, because really at the root typically is anxiety. So, we're trying to go from there. So she hasn't given him a formal diagnosis, but she's seen it. And so she's, seen it in person. And she, she agrees that it seems like it very well could be a tic disorder. But until we really treat the anxiety more, it could be something that'll get better as he gets older.
Can I ask you, if you ask him about it, does he have a conscious idea that he feels anxious?
Yeah, he has, yes, he has told me he has anxiety.
He worries about things or feels pressure about stuff. Okay. All right. I understand. Okay. Well, what a fun detour, Katy. Now let's go back.
And everything was going really well too. Right before he was diagnosed, it was we were on the upswing.
Yeah.
It was
let me tell you that just a couple of weeks before Arden was diagnosed, we had just had this big birthday party for Arden. We had bought a house in the last 2 years. Our son was,
that's awesome.
Yeah, our son was going away to kindergarten, and we had
so
this
exciting.
new baby. We had enough money to rent a pony for Arden's party to walk around in the backyard.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, we felt like we were doing something, and I had the same feelings as you did, everything was just exactly the way I expected it to be, and was moving in exactly the direction I had intended, and that Kelly had intended.
Yeah, full steam ahead.
Yeah. And then I was just oh, wait a minute. And then all of this just happened. It is definitely shocking. That's for certain. So you're in the hospital. He's diagnosed, obviously. He's in DKA, I'm guessing. And then it's it's 3.5 years ago, right? So he was 3.5 when he was diagnosed. 6.5 years ago, excuse me.
7 years this July.
Okay. And so you leave with some reasonable gear, I imagine.
So we go to the hospital. We're there for 5 days. Learning how to take care of our son. There's people coming in and out of the hospital room all day. Sure. Were you in the hospital for more than a day with Arden?
5 days. Yeah.
Yeah. It was 5 days, Children's Hospital. And by the way, Oakland Children's Hospital was amazing. I mean, the nurses in there, they were like angels. But you know how it is in the Children's Hospital, you got people coming in and out of that room all day long. So you're exhausted. You're not sleeping, and, you're on your phone Googling what this is. What is this? The doctors are telling you. I remember when right before they transferred him over to the Oakland Children's Hospital, they said, we're going to have to, first they were going to take him on an air flight. They were going to life flight him over. But then they were able to stabilize him enough that they go, okay, we think we can just bring him in the ambulance. I'm like, oh, you think, and the doctor in the ER is going, well, we worry about things like brain swelling and, and I'm just, your head is spinning.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I know for me it was. My husband went into kind of the gotta fix it mode,
We're so good at that. Yeah.
Right off the bat. And I went into the just heartbroken mode pretty quickly.
Right.
So I would say it sort of hit me first, and it kind of hit him later.
At what point did you think, I had this thought earlier? I thought something, because I'm just trying to mix your anxiety with the thought earlier that everything was going too well, which, by the way, I do think is that OCD, or there's something about the expecting. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny. So I've always been under the condition that I have OCD. But I'm actually working with a trauma therapist. And we're uncovering the whole PTSD thing. And she basically is explaining it to me that OCD, anxiety, depression, like all these things can kind of fall under the umbrella of PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's like, I'm not fully convinced that you 100% have OCD, although I don't know, because I'm pretty sure my grandmother, well, actually, I mean, let's be honest. My grandmother, she's undiagnosed. I think she's also undiagnosed some other mental illness as well, like maybe bipolar or borderline personality. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
She never got care, but she did things that were not, she did things that were like textbook OCD.
Yeah.
So
there's this idea in OCD, my understanding of it's going to be limited, but there's this magical thinking concept that your thoughts make things happen. And so that's why I was wondering if you're you're laughing. Am I getting to something now?
No. Yeah, you're right on.
Okay. All right. So then the way it then burdens people is that they try to have these good thoughts, like thinking the right things so that the right things happen. I was just wondering if, because you had an idea prior when your kids were little and everything, when Griffin was little and everything was going so well, and you actually thought, this is going so well, something bad's going to happen. When something bad happened, did you think that you made it happen with your thoughts?
No.
Good. All right.
I was able to differentiate
Katy,
those
good
two.
job.
Yeah. Well, luckily I started I put my butt in therapy in my 20s. Cause I realized after I had my first child, and went through some postpartum, anxiety. So I know it's like there's postpartum depression. But there's also something called postpartum anxiety. People don't talk about it as much. But so it's really easy for everyone to go, oh, she had postpartum depression. It's, I was not thinking about harming my children, any of that. And there's nothing wrong with postpartum depression. But that's not very serious. Too. Yeah. But that wasn't it. I was more like, I was highly anxious all day, every day, like so worried I was going to mess this up somehow, this perfect porcelain, little angel, that I was going to somehow screw this up. So, that's when I really went in and got the anxiety diagnosis, panic disorder, because I was experiencing full blown panic attacks at that point. So, I went in and got support, which I'm really grateful that I knew enough to know I don't want to. I think part of it was seeing my grandmother.
I was going to say, how I'm dying to know what your grandmother did. I figured she shot like a porno in the mall or something like that when she was 80.
No, she's high. So she's high. My mom's from Michigan. My grandmother is extremely highly religious, but to the point where it's definitely not normal. Okay. She's Catholicism is everything. And she would write us letters when we were little and, tell us we needed to be nuns and priests. And, and then when we became of age, where we were, dating and getting married and, she would send letters, telling us that we need to be, you must wait for marriage and you must do this and you must do that. Just very inappropriate grandmother talk.
Well, it's kind of her magical thinking, right? She thinks that the universe has rules, and if she doesn't follow them, she'll be judged. Exactly. She'll be judged poorly. And part of that following it is making sure that everyone she has sway over gets told what she knows is true.
Yes.
Where she'll be judged for not telling you. I get the whole thing. Okay. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's worried she's going to go to hell.
Your grandmother's way of being was so off-putting to you that you put yourself into therapy because you're like, I'm related to her. Is that?
Well, I think I just saw how just how abnormal her behavior was, and that, she would write excessive letters to my mom and to all of us and just always pushing religion. And,
for clarity, you're not just talking about she's religious or believes very firmly. You're talking about something that seemed over and above. And
way
okay. All right.
over and above. I know people that are very religious and
don't make you feel like your grandma on phone. Okay.
Yeah, no, this was on a level where the red flag came out. You know, as a child, I remember thinking, she's a bit different, you know, she's a little different. I had an outdoor wedding, and like my grandmother wrote me countless letters telling me that it was an abomination, and, you know, just
to be outside, get married.
Yeah, because it wasn't in the church.
That makes sense to me. When you were little, your mom let these letters get to you?
Unfortunately, yeah.
I would have thought
I don't think I know, okay. Right.
Yeah.
You live and you learn, you know, and I don't blame my mom. My mom she's amazing, and, you know, it couldn't have been easy having a controlling mother like that.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. Ooh, this is may I say, this phrase means so much to me anymore. I'm just going to write down it's just 3443. First time Scott says, this is quite a show.
Oh my goodness. No, don't be fooled though. Like I have so many wonderful things in my life.
I'm sure we'll get to them, but first, how did you trick that husband into marrying you? Did you keep all this a secret, or was he in on this?
Well, he definitely has his, I see
what you did. You found a puppy with one weird eye too, and you were like, hold on a second. He'll accept my crap.
He comes from a different upbringing where nobody talks about things. It's more quiet. Things are under the surface. And there's definitely mental illness in his family as well. Mm-hmm. And very much like some of them undiagnosed. You know, I wish they were diagnosed. Yeah. But yeah, so there's definitely stuff, skeletons in that closet too.
I'm so happy I started a podcast. This is like, talking to you is going to be the best part of my day. Because I just think that, you know, you talked about his family, nothing gets said, etc. In your family, way too much got said. But in my family specifically, Kelly's quieter and more to herself because she grew up sort of Catholic and like, we'll just, you know, pretend things are okay. And I'm obvious. I think this should be obvious to people listening. I'm excessively happy to talk about anything constly. I just think,
let's put it all on the table.
Yeah. Let's just keep pushing out till there's nothing to hide, and then we'll see what happens. Right. You know, I mean,
I think when you're around, like, I know when I'm around my husband's family, you know, there's been a lot of times where it's so quiet. It's like like you could hear like a pin drop on the ground. Mm-hmm. And I just want to go, okay, can we all just like, let's get the elephant out of the room. Like, okay, you know, this person doesn't like that person, and that person does, you know, it's just like, come on. Like, I don't know. I just have gotten to a point where I just, I'm just I want to address things in my life. I don't want to skirt around, the obvious.
I find so wasted time is a pet peeve of mine. I don't like wasting time. It makes me like really upset. And it just, I know, I look at myself in the mirror. There's no way I'm one of those people who's going to make it to 87. You know what I mean? Like, I need to live, right? So I don't like wasting time. I don't like wasting other people's time. I don't like other people wasting my time. But more importantly, if you want to know what makes me mental, it's when you know something and I know something. I know that you know it, and you know that I know it, and yet we pretend that nobody's aware of it. That makes me want to just strangle somebody. So it's, and that's one I really struggle with just certain people in my life. Are you paying your water bill while we're doing this? What are you doing over there?
Oh, sorry. I was like stacking. I was like, you know, when you take papers and you like, you make them all like in one. Never mind.
No, I don't, Katie, because I don't have whatever you have, so I'm not sure what that is.
It's a stack.
But I bet
like
your
my
desk. Your desk looks better than mine.
Yeah, I am at my desk.
I bet yours is nice and clean compared to mine. So, uh-oh.
Yeah.
This thing's it's not even helping you keep your desk clean. What a waste. Man, that's the worst kind of anxiety. At least put it like stick it on the house. You know what I mean? Or something. Wouldn't it be great?
I'm going through a tunnel right now. Okay.
and stacking paper. All right. So Griffin's diagnosed, and let's talk about diabetes for a little bit, just because the diabetes podcast, and maybe somebody's interested. How did you find management of this thing when you had this anxiety going? Was it and a new baby, right?
Yes. So, sorry, his Dexcom keeps alerting me. My husband's he's on it.
Is he? Or do we need to yell at him?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
No, he's yeah. I asked him to make sure to be in contact with the school nurse. So
are you able not to look at it knowing that your husband is looking at it, or is that too much?
Typically no. Like I want to look at it, but I saw it before, and like I know that he's paying attention to it, so I know he's probably already had his correction, but it probably just hasn't come down all the way.
You're now making me think that I haven't seen Arden's blood sugar in hours, and you made me want to go look at it. So I popped it open here. 111. There's a little weird drop, and now I'm going to guess she ate something. She did. I don't know what, but she ate a little something. Okay. I recognized that I hadn't seen Arden's blood sugar in a very long time just now when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, not that this might break through your thing, but I just set the alarms at places where I know it won't get too out of hand before my alarm. And that way, if I don't hear the alarm, I know we're in that range, and that keeps me from thinking about it. But
right.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. So just if it does, so if like my phone's at 120 and 70, and if I don't hear a beep, I never think about diabetes. I just let it ride in there somewhere between 70 and 120. I mean, you have to be able to do that first, obviously, but the idea there is that if your alarm's at 180 or 200, you're always wondering if you're on your way to 180 or 200 instead of just, anyway.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. If it works, feel free to use it. So,
yeah, totally. But I've gotten a lot of great information from listening to your episodes. I haven't listened to all of them, but I've listened to quite a few of them, and it has helped a lot.
Oh, I'm very glad. I always I used to worry in the beginning because there was this kind of section of vocal people online who would say that you can't talk about doing something and talk about how it's going well, because for people who it is not going well for, you'll make them feel badly. But I never believed that. I always thought that modeling was important. And so I'm glad to hear that you've enjoyed it. That's excellent.
Absolutely. So when we got, we get home from the hospital and they give us these giant bags of supplies, and we leave the hospital. And I was definitely in a really tough place at that time. I just remember like the sky looked darker, everything. It was just like our whole world looked different. Everything was flipped upside down. And I remember being in the hospital and they're going, okay, like, so you're going to have to do your first shot today, and it's like first of how many thousand? Like, it's just, cause I tend to be, I would kind of look at the big picture, and I'm like, once I started to learn about what this disease is and what the prognosis and just all of it, like the complications that can happen, everything, I really just was, I was in a state of just complete anxiety. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh, like, is he going to have complications by the time, what's going to happen, and I'm thinking 20 years down the road, I'm thinking 5 years down the road, I'm thinking, all of that. My husband's more of the, he's thinking like, let's just get through today, which I admire that about him.
I have a question for you. Are you an artistic person?
I am a bit. I tend to be drawn to artistic people. My husband is artistic. My son is an artist. So,
do you want to know why I asked?
Why?
Because you are inclined to write a story about everything, like in your mind. I don't know if I'm so far. By the way, I've known you for 44 minutes and 11 seconds, so I could be 100% wrong. And I have no medical or, mental health training whatsoever. I just have a podcast, but I do recognize a little bit of myself in you, which is if I gave over to my bigger, flowerier, more flowery, or melancholy thoughts, I can go in those directions if I want to. But I know how to stop myself from going in those directions. But it seems that when these things happen around you, you're kind of like vortex sucked into them. Like this, like the way you described a car accident, the way you described being in the hospital room, it wasn't like, it's almost like your life's a movie. If that makes sense, or you see it that way, I guess one or the other. I'm not certain so far. I'm only 45 minutes into this, but I'm trying to get to it.
You're right on. Yeah, you're right on.
I've told this story on the podcast before, so I'll tell it really quickly. I was, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, walking to school one day, and I had recently heard that if you step on the crack, you will break your mother's back. This had been ballied about between the children, and
I remember hearing that too on my way home from school.
Yes. So I'm walking to school one day, and then of course, if you've ever seen a sidewalk, there's a crack in the sidewalk about every 4 or 5 feet, and then I realized that I saw myself. I'm like, I'm now not stepping on the crack, and I did think, well, that's silly. This isn't real, and the more I walked, the more I avoided it. And then I stopped myself and I was like, I am not giving into this crap, whatever this is. And then I purposefully stepped on all the cracks and then came home. My mom's back was intact and I never thought about it again. But I felt it in that moment. Like I could give over to this little bit of weirdness and fall into it like a warm bath. And instead I just kind of decided to go the other way. Do you ever feel it coming on when you're?
That's definitely something that, that's a journey in my life that is constantly, trying to target when those things are coming on. And, but it's hard, at times you're so wrapped up in the way you feel that it's hard to always see the storm ahead, I guess you would say. So, sometimes you kind of feel like you're navigating blindfolded a bit, but I do, through going to therapy and through kind of like working on myself, I definitely feel like I have more of the tools to recognize things before they happen or recognize things after they happen and look back and go, okay, that's how that happened,
right. Is it as if you have too many feelings?
Probably, yeah. I remember when I was, I'm a March baby, so I'm a Pisces, which tend to be on the more like, I don't know if you'd say, I don't like the word sensitive because I feel like it's saying that I'm like, oh, she's
Katy,
sensitive.
Are you sensitive to people using the word sensitive because you don't think you're that sensitive?
Well, here's why.
Hold on, you're going to need to give me a second. That was amazing. You're like, I am sensitive to when people call me sensitive because I am not sensitive. No, I know that's not what you're saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, like I kind of, you're kind of right, but kind of, Yeah, no, I for sure like always had my feelings, big heart. Like I remember when I was little, my mom just saying you have really big feelings. And I don't remember like, I would just remember how that felt when she said that. So yeah, I've always been like, I would say definitely like super in touch with my feelings.
How did it feel when she said that?
It almost kind of felt like a compliment to me.
Yeah.
So when my mom said that, and she said, it looks like there's a light bulb in your head. Because I had super blonde hair. So I don't know. I felt like it was a compliment. Like you feel things.
Oh, I would
really, really.
Yeah, I would take it that way as well. I don't know why there's a throttle or a limiter on me. Like I know when I'm like, oh God, like this is going too far the other way, and I can put a stop to it pretty quickly.
That's because you're super lucky.
Yeah, I imagine that really is all it is. Like there are times people contact me and they're like, how did you do that episode with this person telling this story or that story? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I mean, they're right there. They're okay. And even if they aren't, they want to share this. It's, it's their, I'm respecting their desire to share this story. Like, it just seems like somebody needs to be there to, shepherd it through to the end. And it is sad sometimes, but I don't know. Like there is an ability to be dispassionate, but not, I could go either way. I don't think I could get so dispassionate that I didn't care, but I could care so much that I wouldn't be able to, I could lose myself, I guess, if I allowed myself to. Anyway, I'm sorry. This is interesting.
No, for sure.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I'm definitely, I guess you could qualify as, sensitive, but as far as like strength, I feel like I'm pretty strong. I've been through some really low lows, and I've had some really high highs. So, I've been at where I feel like I'm drowning. And that's when we came home from the hospital. That's what I remember telling my mom, because I was, I was very depressed and just trying to get through hour to hour. We're writing all the food and we're weighing stuff and we're doing, and really just living hour to hour. And I still had the baby. I was, 30 weeks pregnant. And I wasn't sleeping. I was just worried sick, big dark circles under my eyes. I didn't have the best support around me. My husband and my mother were like my lifeline. And although some other family members, they definitely had good intentions, and I appreciate all the good intentions that people had. But there was definitely certain family members that were not helpful at all. And kind of were the exact opposite, and were very judgmental and very, just when are you going to snap out of this?
They blame
when are you going to snap? Yeah. When are you going to snap out of it? Oh, and then I found my mom, I'm talking to my mom. I go, I think I need to find a support group, or I need to find someone to talk to. I said, I just want to talk to another parent that knows how this feels. And so I found a support group where I live, by really pushing the doctors, and just like, I had to self advocate. I can't like stress that enough to people.
Right.
If you feel like something's not right with your loved one or with yourself, advocate. Like you have to, because no one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to find this amazing group of families, that all had kids with type 1 diabetes, whether they were my son's age or now in college. All of these parents, just meeting them changed my life. I remember one of the moms, I talked to her on the phone. This was probably 2 weeks after his diagnosis. And she goes, do you want to just come over and have coffee and meet with some of us moms? Like no judgment, just come over. We know you're in a really hard place right now. I went over that day, and we sat at a table and just all told our story and passed around the Kleenex box. And they literally came into my life like angels. Like, it made me believe in angels. One of the moms brought flowers she had picked from her garden and handed them to me. Another mom had like baked muffins. It was just, I was overwhelmed with the love that I was getting, because I was really in such a deep state of depression, and these people around me that were not being helpful were actually making it worse. So meeting those people and getting into a support group, it literally, like, I mean, it quite literally changed my life.
I think empathy
and pulled me out.
I'm glad. I think empathy from a person who actually has your perspective is so much more enveloping than even just, empathy from a well-meaning person.
Yeah. I mean, there is a family member that, just would have things to say, like, when are you going to snap out of it? Have you met your I come back from the support group meeting. Have you met your new best friends now? At one point, I'm sitting outside on my patio, and I'm in tears talking to my dad. Like, how am I going to do this? I'm so overwhelmed. I'm scared. Like, what's going to happen to him? Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And, and this family member is inside, just like rolling their eyes at me. And my mom actually like caught it happening. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, this person needs to not be around you right now. So it was honestly, it was really challenging, dealing with the component of people in our family with their own mental illnesses that they're probably not taking care of. It actually aggravated, my journey and my like kind of wellness in the situation. And when that happens, you really need to be able to be strong and be there and present for your child. Mm-hmm. And it's incredibly hard to do that when you have people around you that are not well themselves.
Were you able to put distance between them and you?
I had to start doing that. Yeah. So my husband and I, really started to back off and, we started to be, because once I, would talk to therapy, they would be saying, you got exactly distance. Like, you can't, if someone is making you, like they're saying these kind of things to you, like, that's not okay. Like, you need to not have that around you, because that's, and they're like, don't apologize for it. Don't feel bad, because that's me. I'm a chronic apologizer. Yeah. So well, I'm like, actually, I want to bring people together.
Katy, we talked about that before we started talking, that you said I'm a chronic apologizer. You've only done it once in the 56 minutes. I've been keeping a
I'm
tick
working
sheet,
on it.
So good job. I thought, she's going to do it a bunch. Here's what I thought, if I'm being honest. You'll do it a whole bunch and I could tease you about it later, but then you didn't do it. So, and I know teasing someone who has anxiety about their desire to apologize all the time is probably not correct. But we're having a fun conversation. I actually have to tell you, as you're talking and in other episodes, I'm really proud of the way that the podcast handles people's really serious problems. Mm-hmm. I think that if you came on here and started talking about all the things that had gone wrong or are currently going wrong or that you're struggling with, etc., and that it was just a funeral dirge, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Okay. I don't know, it would be unlistenable, and no one would be able to learn anything about it. So,
right.
I don't know. I love it. I love that you're touching that paper still. I'm dying to know what you're doing over there.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Okay. Yeah. That's totally like maybe I have my own tick.
Maybe.
I'm so used to holding, like, I have this planner, and then I always have to write everything down because my memory is so shot. Mm-hmm. So I write everything down. I'm like, I got to write down, okay, I got to do this. I got to do that. I'm going to, take the laundry out, like whatever. It's all written down for me.
Katy, I think you're a lot of fun. I think I'd like to date you for 6 months. That'd be enough. But I think
Oh my God.
But I think for those 6 months, we'd have a great time. And then,
yeah, totally. And then it'd just be done.
You'd be like, that's enough. So, well, what are, what are your moving forward plans like? And do those plans ever work out? Or are you constantly in a state of working on something, or do you have goals? How does that all look?
Absolutely. So after that all happened and I found the support group that was incredibly helpful, I really started finding the resources I needed and found out about the Diabetes Youth Foundation. We took our son in 2017. We took him to Bearskin Meadows for a week, which is a really amazing diabetes camp here in California. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and that was like total game changer. Just meeting all those families. And I mean, it's like for 1 week, you go into a world where you're like everyone else, and there's like an insulin line in the morning, and there's endocrinologists and nurses, and it's really awesome.
This happens outside. Would Jesus be okay with it not happening in a church?
I think Jesus would definitely be okay. If we asked
your grandmother, she would be like,
yeah. And the thing about that religion thing it's always kind of boggled my mind about that is that my grandma thinks that if you don't go into a church, you're not religious. And I've tried to argue my point with her a long time ago, but I stopped. Mm-hmm. I realized a long time ago there was no point. But I tried, just saying, hey, grandma, like for me, like when I'm hiking, that's my religion. When I'm listening to my favorite music, when I'm like, I pray all the time. You do not have to go inside of a building to be spiritual and to have faith.
Right.
You can have faith in an elevator. Sure. You can, whatever. So that's what I've learned.
It's an old Aerosmith song, isn't it? Faith in an elevator. No,
I don't know. I'm sure there's some cheesy line
it's
somewhere.
It's love in an elevator.
I know. I feel like I should write a book with like just quotes, like just super cheesy quotes.
Oh, I'd prefer if you made a movie about your grandmother, but.
Oh my God. My grandmother used to drive crazy. Like when we would go to Michigan, she would take us to garage sales because she loved garage sales. And I just remember being in the back of the car and like holding on to the door so tight because she would drive like erratic kind of,
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't have to pay attention when God's on your side. He does it all for you.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
No, God's right there. Yeah.
I love you. I would sit and I would watch video of your grandmother writing those letters. As long as I
would, I mean, she's pretty entertaining.
Yeah. As long as I could see the words as she was putting them down, I'd be endlessly fascinated with those letters. All right. So I'm sorry, you met people. I'm sorry. This is my fault now. You met people, you headed off to the Diabetes Youth Foundation, went away for a little bit, found that kind of centering. How is,
and then I hiked Half Dome a week later. So that was Half Dome's in Yosemite.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it in person.
Yeah, it's stunning, isn't it? It is. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, I'm going to hike up to the top of that thing. And I did.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I did it with my sister. And it was just really awesome to like show myself that I could do that. And it was really cool to see like people from all different walks of life, like people in their 70s. There was a guy that had his like 11-year-old son with him. It was just kind of like just so many different walks of life doing that. But yeah, those 2 weeks were just like such a healing experience. And then, I really started to get a lot better and feel a lot better. And, just knowing what my boundaries were with people and just focusing on, just Griffin. And just, I'm so proud of him. He is amazing. And he, I feel like could really tell a story someday too. He's really good at like communicating with people. Mm-hmm. What like the nurse, I've had the nurse, the principal, I've had numerous people like at school tell me like, your son's really good at like communication. Like he's really good at like, at telling us what needs to happen, like with his blood sugar, with his diabetes or his care or how he's feeling.
Right.
And I don't know. I hope that like maybe seeing me kind of do that a little bit, maybe hopefully wore off a little bit.
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
That's a great skill to have. Just being able to articulate yourself and not being afraid to say it too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a big one. Like in front of his class and stuff. I started from kindergarten. Like I went up in front of his class and just go, hey, like, hi, I'm Griffin's mom. Everyone knows me. Griffin's mom. You're going to see me pop in and out. Griffin's got little gadgets. He calls them his robot arms. Mm-hmm. I felt like if you just get it out of the way, like it's like it takes the tension out of it.
Yeah, that's how I did it for the first couple of years when she was little. Would basically show up on the first day and just real quick tell the kids, this is Arden. Arden's just like you. Arden does this thing on her, gives her insulin. She might leave the room once in a while or go to the nurse's office to do some stuff, and then she'll be back. She's okay. You don't need to do anything. Don't worry, it's not scary. She'd whip out her thing and check her blood sugar in front of everybody right away. First day, like every once in a while, you're going to see her do this. She did that. There's no big deal there. Nothing to worry about. It's all very normal. And then it just became what you said. You got what you expected. You laid those expectations out for those kids, and they followed right along with it. So I didn't do it trying to think. I don't think I did it much past third grade, maybe. And then she would just do it herself the first couple years after that. And then it just fell by the wayside. And everybody just knew her at that point. It didn't matter.
Yeah, I really noticed that when I kind of took the lead with that Griffin kind of just fell right into that and was more like just proud and like, hey, this is who I am. Like, this is what he's very much just like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that confidence is so important. And I think he's very lucky to have that confidence, because I just know that like not everyone has that. And, I've seen people with conditions where it's a lot more private and not talked about. And that can be really difficult.
Yeah. No, I don't think we should be hiding.
To hold it all inside,
Yeah. I don't think we should be hiding anything. I don't think people should be forcing us to hide anything. So I'm down with that very much. So, hey, I'm so sorry, Katy. Like, I'm going to run out of time just because I have to go out with my wife this afternoon and do some like adult things. But I want to make sure that we've gotten to everything that you wanted to. I don't want to leave you feeling incomplete.
Totally. I think just the main thing for me is just anybody listening to this, if you're a new parent on the scene, or maybe you're a sibling of maybe your brother's son just got type 1, or maybe your daughter-in-law or your son-in-law, whatever it might be, do some research. Like, don't be afraid to do your research. Maybe read up on it, read up on how you can help, what you can do. Be active in the kid's life, the kid that has T1, be active in their life. Like, don't go away and stay away. I've seen family members do that where they kind of just really back off. And I don't know if it's because they're, uncomfortable with it, or maybe they're scared of it themselves. But be around the family, and just learn what you can and be helpful and talk about it. It's okay to talk about. It doesn't need to be this secret, thing that, people don't talk about. And my Instagram handle is Griff's Mama 1. Anybody, if they want to go on there and check out my page. I somewhat post about type 1, but also just my life and my hiking adventures and my just all the things I do for fun. And
spell the Instagram handle. GRIFF FFS.
MAMA
MAMA.
1.
I see you. Yeah, there's other Griff's mom I got there before you.
Griff's Mama 1
Yeah,
at,
I'm saying there's a
or
Griff's.
I almost said it AOL. Sorry.
At AOL.com. And it's 1982. And I want to go see the Superman movie with Chris Reeves tonight. Oh, there he is. Oh, look how handsome. Excellent.
My kids think I'm so old because I was from the 1900s.
Yeah. Oh, you are old. So am I. But that's not the point. These kids, they don't know. They'll know later. Wait till they get older and the stories they have to tell are about Dua Lipa. Then they'll be embarrassed. At least your stories about the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or Guns N' Roses.
I love it.
See?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love all the good music. I am lucky though, in the sense my kids really like all that music a lot.
Oh, I'm glad. My kids have pretty eclectic tastes in music, and I'm always been happy about that. Just because,
right?
Some of the
I feel like that's like such a. It's almost like I'm really proud of that my kids like good music. They don't listen to the they're not listening to the crappy music. They like the good stuff.
Turn that off. That horrible. I do my best to listen to what they listen to and try to keep up with it. My son makes it a little harder than Arden does. But I've still heard modern music that Cole likes that I've enjoyed a lot. But
for sure.
But overall, I'm just telling you, 50 years from now, you're still going to know who the Beatles are. And if you know who Lil Nas X is, I'll be really surprised. That's all I'm saying. Right. But I won't live 50 years more, so it's not going to matter anyway. This is all just things I say to fill time. Katy with an that's all I do. All right, Katy with a Y. I got to jump. I don't know what to call this one. I'll figure it out. Nah, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Unless you have thoughts right now.
You'll think of something.
My problem is I just put up an episode called A Ball of Anxiety. So I'm going to have to go in a different direction.
I'm sure you'll think of something.
Yeah, it'll come to me in a vision. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you very much for doing this.
Of course. I was so happy to come on. And yeah, just such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm glad. All right, first, let's thank the good people at contournext.com/juicebox. That's right, ContourNext1. Go get yourself an accurate meter at contournext.com/juicebox. I also want to thank InPen from Medtronic Diabetes for sponsoring this episode and remind you to go to InPentoday.com to get started right now with that insulin pen that has some of the features that you've come to expect from an insulin pump. InPentoday.com. Lastly, I'd like to thank Katy for coming on the show and sharing her story. I thought she was terrific, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. If you're looking for community around diabetes, you really should check out the absolutely free Facebook group for the Juicebox Podcast. Juicebox Podcast Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. It's a private group, which just means that you're going to have to answer a couple of small questions to get in. Just, what kind of diabetes you have, stuff like that. And then you're in with 30,000 other people having conversations right now that I'm sure you would be interested in. Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. If you're looking for the Diabetes Pro Tip series, they're available beginning at episode 210 in your podcast player. There's a list available in the featured tab of the Juicebox Podcast private Facebook group, or you can find them at diabetesprotip.com and juiceboxpodcast.com.